It's a How I Lead episode where we reach out to everyday leaders across the world and ask them one question. How is it that you lead? Okay, we asked several questions, but that's the general idea of what we're going for here. And today we're going to Arizona to talk with Tanner Pursley, who's been a bishop for 1 week and he already has it figured out. No, I kid. We talk about his time just working with youth in the bishopric prior to his call as bishop, and he created, with the help of many others, I'm sure, a I Can Do Hard Things challenge. And I'm really impressed by this. I mean, this is one of those things that I think the nuances of the scouting program that we miss, where we had formal merit badges and advancements and rankings. And I remember my time of scouting, it got me to the city council meeting, or I had to go talk with that engineer in the ward and learn about this or that for this merit badge, or I planted a garden with my scouting troop and learned about gardening, right? And a lot of that is missed because we don't have a formal program like that, but we have the quadrant, right? And Tanner talks about how he uses the child and youth program with the quadrants, with all the things, and sort of made his own approach or challenge as a youth leader. And he calls it I Can Do Hard Things Challenge. And it has had such a dramatic effect on the youth in his Arizona ward. And really cool the stories he tells, and we give all the details and the printouts and his program in the show notes, so you can go there, but make it your own, and this could be something that you can do not only for youth, but for the primary, for adults, or whatever you want to do. But some of these things sometimes captivate a ward in a special way, and there's really a bonding experience at the end of this when we've gone out and done these hard things, and we now come together and share and reflect. And so, a really good idea. This is one of the many that you can share to youth leaders. If you know a youth leader, please put this link in a text, an email, and send it on to them and help to get some ideas out there. So here's my interview with Tanner Pursley. All right, Tanner, you just mentioned to me that you've been bishop for, I guess it's been like 24 hours, or has it been a week?
It has been a week.
Okay.
I've been bishop for 1 week.
Nice.
So
and
yeah,
you're already ready for a How I Lead episode being bishop. No,
I've got it all figured out now. No, I do
Nice.
not. People keep asking, what, how do you feel? And it's like super overwhelmed, like all the time.
I bet. Sure. And where's your ward located?
So we're in southeastern Arizona, a little town called Morenci. The ward is Clifton, and we're in the Duncan Stakeout here. So
nice.
We live in Arizona, but my cell phone picks up like New Mexico signal, so it thinks I'm in New Mexico. It's how close we are to the border there.
Wow. So. Okay, cool. And are you born and raised in Arizona?
Born and raised nearby a little town called Thatcher.
Oh yeah, sure.
So yeah, that's where Spencer W. Kimball's from. So
that's right.
That's our claim to fame with the church.
Did they have any like marker or like his childhood home or anything like that?
Oh yeah, it's all there in front of his childhood home, and locals will go and tour that, and it's cool. So yeah,
nice.
we're big Spencer W. Kimball fans around here.
I bet. Well, aren't we all? So,
oh yeah.
Now you reached out to me a bit ago and talked about sort of I don't know how you frame it, a program, an initiative. How do you frame it?
So it's a program, a slash initiative. So here's what I'll tell you the story, and then we can kind of
let's hear the story.
Go from there. So before I was bishop, I was the first counselor, and I came into the working with the youth, and I just felt like we were struggling with direction, with what to do. And I was sitting in a state conference for the leaders, the Saturday session, and they were talking about building a youth program and doing stuff with youth and getting out with them. And I was like, I need a target. We talk about being youth driven, and what does that look like? And I think when I talk to other youth leaders, what they tell me is we're trying to let the youth drive, and we don't know where we're driving to.
Yeah.
And so I started just brainstorming what are things that I would like my youth to do, and how do I get them there?
Mm-hmm.
And so I started with my dad's a lifelong youth leader, and so he just was like, well, here's the last 6 years of stuff that we used, you ought to steal from us. And I was like, okay, well, that's better than nothing. And I started just stealing from scouting, from duty to God, from what Dad did, and we just put this. We compiled a pamphlet, and I've emailed that to you. But we call it the I Can Do Hard Things Challenge. We divided it into the 4 different areas that the youth programs by the church are asked to do. So spiritual, social, intellectual, and physical. And they have between 10 and 12 things that we would like our youth to do. With that, we don't require them to do it. We don't make them do this by any means, but it gives them a target. And what we're finding is that the parents in our wards are the ones that are really wanting to do stuff are really into this. And so last year we had 4 kids do it. This year, right now, I've got 3 more that are like, we are. And just to be clear, we're in a small ward. We're not huge. So when I say 4 kids, that was like a large percentage of our kids that are doing this.
Okay, so how would you describe your ward and the amount of youth and things?
Let's see here. We have about 20 active youth.
Okay, good. So a good handful of youth that are coming and participating.
Yes. And so with that, we're trying to change the culture in our ward. And we haven't had missionaries leaving from our ward. And that's been something that both our ward, like the ward leadership wants that, but we tend to be fighting parent buy-in. And this was one of those things that parents can buy into. And so, since I've been called into a bishopric, we've had no missionaries that have left from our ward in the last 5 years. And right now I have 2 on date that are preparing to go on a mission.
That's encouraging.
Yeah. We're like, we're seeing changes. Yeah. And we think that a big part of it is the I Can Do Hard Things challenge and just going out and do.
And about how long have you been doing this this program, this challenge?
This is our this is our second full year of doing it.
Okay, good. So you've got some good track record to see. I'm sure you learned a lot along the way. Now, this is love or hate the scouting program. This is something it was good at as far as giving structure and like targets, right? Different advancements, and sure there's maybe some things that could be adjusted there, but nonetheless, at least you knew the program and what was expected and what the next thing was. And, I got to get this many merit badges or whatever it is. And so not that this is a copy of the scouting program, but it's kind of the same principles.
A lot of things we took from scouting, absolutely. But the big difference was scouting doesn't really have a spiritual aspect to it. A lot of it is the physical side and a little bit of the intellectual and social, but really not. And so, we've asked our kids to do a lot of the spiritual side, and that's really probably our most effective part. We ask our kids to read the Book of Mormon cover to cover, to speak in church twice a year, to teach a lesson in the quorum twice a year, and so those are some of the things that we've done, and cool. There's a lot of them.
So maybe just let's break it down, just the nuts and bolts about as far as how that program works and what it is and how you do it all.
Right. Let me pull up some of because I think a big part of it that really kind of sells it is because we've got a title page to it. So it reads, while meeting with the Duncan Stake presidency, the bishopric realized that we needed a program that would help push our youth to be better prepared for the life that is coming for them as they get older. We often see in this day and age full of video games and cell phones that we can fall short of many activities that can lead to other opportunities outside of our home and screens. While, of course, these things are fun and fine to do, we are hoping that this program will help push our youth to try new things while they are young and become exposed to different opportunities that can open doors and allow them to see the world through a better light. The 13th Article of Faith counsels us to believe all things, hope all things, endure many things, and hope to be able to endure all things. If there is anything virtuous, lovely, or of good report, or praiseworthy, we seek after these things. And as such, we hope to seek after many praiseworthy things that will help us to endure and better appreciate the world around us. And so we as a bishopric have raised the challenge and extend to it in this fashion. Any youth that can complete all of these tasks by the end of the year and show proof of the accomplishments qualifies them for a special recognition award, including a steak dinner cooked by the bishopric, a special custom-made plaque, and award recognition that will last for the eternities. On a side note, we recognize that this challenge is hard, and it was intended to be hard, but achievable with dedication and focus. There can be a total of 2 challenges not finished that will still count as a goal achieved.
Nice. And that's why you call it I Can Do Hard Things Challenge, right? You got to live up to the name.
We got to live up to the name, and we need kids just out doing things. I have sent several of your episodes to my new called Bishopric, and one of them is the Kirby Hayborn one, talking about the dudes. And I think that every ward needs some of the dudes. I love that concept of calling brethren that'll do cool things. So let's talk about the different focuses within there.
So you got these broken up, like you said, in the 4 quadrants, and each has its own list. And of course, those listening, they can. We're going to attach this to the show notes and everything if you want to pull this up. And really, I mean, these are just your suggestions. I'm sure people could tweak these, or depending on where they live, maybe there's other type of activities that are closer.
Oh, for sure. I think that what we did was very like anyone could do this with your own ward and things that you want to do, right?
Yeah.
And I was talking with some friends of mine, and they were like, this is really how every ward should be doing their youth programs. Is you should be developing something that gives your kids a target to go to, because we want the youth to do things, but they don't know what it is to do. So this is kind of the menu.
Yeah, so maybe let's just start with physical. Maybe just read your list.
Let's
go through
read
it.
And just so I'm not going to read, because each one of these kind of has like bullet points and things that they have to sign off. We're not going to read all of those bullet points, because this lesson would go there. This interview would go for like a while. But so for physical, the 10 things that I have written down are, we have them do 4 10-mile hikes, which is a lot. A lot of our kids say that one's one of the hardest ones. Feedback I've gotten from parents, and what I recommend for parents, is go and do a hike that's hard for your kid. So if that's 2 miles, 5 miles, whatever it is, find something that's hard for your child. But we ask them to do 4 of them. And same with complete 1 20-mile hike, or bike 50 miles, or swim 1 mile and participate in a triathlon. Most of our kids did a 1 mile swim, because we've got a bunch of swimmers in our ward.
Nice.
Do 30 push-ups every day for 1 month straight. Tread water without a break for 5 minutes. Learn how to either rock climb, snorkel, snowboard, snow ski or snowboard, or play tennis or golf. I've got a bunch of different games there that they can learn. Learn 5 useful knots. Start a fire and completely put it out. Participate in 2 overnight campouts. Build a shelter and sleep in it without a sleeping bag. And properly set up your pole and fishing line. And take a basic first aid principles class. Since then, this is actually an older copy that I'm reading. I've sent you a new one that includes take a firearm safety course as well.
That's great.
So those are all like cool physical things that kids should be kind of interested in doing, but they're going to push them all.
Yeah.
So that's our physical.
I love just the echoes of scouting a little bit, just from my time of scouting. I remember going to the high school pool and doing a lot of similar activities that were like, I don't know if I can do this, but it really pushed me and I grew from it, so this is great.
Oh yeah. It definitely very scouting influenced. And so, yeah, there's definitely an aspect to that. Not everything's bad with scouting. It's, there's a lot of good in scouting.
Yeah, there was.
Sometimes I miss it. I don't miss everything with it. But I do miss the structure a little bit.
Awesome. Should we go to social now?
Let's go to social. We've got prepare 3 different meals, set and follow through with a 6-month goal, tour 4 locations of employment, host a bonfire, complete an art project, participate in 4 different service projects, learn and write a 250-word report on an ancestor, cook something over an open flame, prepare a 72-hour emergency preparedness kit, learn a musical instrument, which that probably fits more in education, but
Yeah.
we
Sure.
made it. We can move wherever we want.
That's right.
Give a 5-minute talk or speech on something not spiritual and not at school. Invite someone not of our faith to a youth activity and be part of a performance. So, yeah, all kind of social things, and a lot of those fit really well with the scouting stuff as well.
Mm-hmm. And then, so, I mean, the expectation is they need to do all of these things, or is that
Yes.
within a
So
12-month period, or?
here's what I would recommend. When you originally sell it as 12 months, and kids will feel the pressure and parents will feel the pressure. But then after if they've done it in 12 months, because it's doable in 12 months, sweet. But for your kids that haven't, that are still into it, what I tell them is keep working on it. And the stuff that you do, you know, don't let that go away. The only one that kids I ask them to redo is our spiritual one, which let's look at that one.
Okay.
So the spiritual one is we ask them to read the Book of Mormon cover to cover, give 2 talks and teach 2 lessons in church, go and work with the full-time missionaries, bear testimony in church 4 times, participate in an FSY and AP camp. Now, let's say you're working with a 12-year-old kid. Anything that doesn't apply to them, we just don't count against them. So, for our deacons, they don't get to go to FSY. So it doesn't count against you. If you want to get it done, cool. Go to an AP camp, go to an Aaronic priesthood camp, or a young women's camp. We've actually had a lot of young women that are working on this, so we would count that as a young women camp. Attend the temple, prepare 5 names and bring them to the temple, invite someone not of our faith to church, memorize the sacrament prayers, memorize all 13 articles of faith, and memorize the proclamations to the family. So
That's awesome.
those are our spiritual ones. And that's kind of where it splits from a lot from scouting, is we're able to do the spiritual aspect a lot more.
Absolutely. All right, now maybe buzz through the intellectual just to finish it off here.
Just real quick, and these are for kids. I work in a public school setting, and a lot of our kids are in public schools, so this is how this would apply for us, but you can definitely approach it differently. Receive no grade lower than a C in any class. Receive no more than 3 tardies in the school year. Participate in 1 club at school or in the community. Participate in 1 sports team at school or in the community. Identify 4 constellations with no technological help. Write a personal biography that must be 500 words long. Create a website, family photo album, or cookbook. Read 3 books from 3 different genres and write a report on them. It needs to be 500 words long. And keep a journal for 30 consecutive days and accomplish 10 personal goals.
Love it.
On top of that, so if you've done all of those, we do have one more thing, and this is the hardest thing for the youth, is we do want a capstone service project similar to an Eagle Scout project, but not. It doesn't need to be that big. But we want them to plan a service project and do it. So
that's awesome. And I love just in these different ideas, like you've weaved it into things that generally they are kind of already doing at the same time. You're just sort of setting the standard higher. Like obviously they're going to school, right? So
yeah,
there's indicators there at school, expectations there as far as timeliness and what grades you get, and you're just working that in there. So hopefully it engages them on those things that they're already doing, but just sort of raises the standard, right?
And again, not every kid's going to fit this mold for this, and not every kid can physically do this. The big thing is that we're trying to do is enable parents to push their kids to do more than just play at home and hang out and play video games all day, because we see that so much with our kids, and it doesn't need to be that way. But a lot of people, a lot of parents and a lot of youth leaders don't know where to go. And so that's why I'm sharing this with anyone and everyone that I can find.
And I imagine this has a lot of influence on maybe what activities the youth are planning in the future, right? In the summertime, it's like, well, I guess in Arizona, it's always summertime, but in the wintertime is when you want to do the hiking, right? but I guess it helps them stay engaged and focus on, hey, who needs to do what for their I can do hard things challenge, and then you can do activities around that.
So yes and no, right? So like I have like my priests right now. Some of them they get anxious about it because they're like, oh, this is really hard for me, and I'm not that motivated to do this. We don't have to do these things. That's
Mhm.
it's youth driven, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
if the youth don't want to do it, that's okay. And not every youth does want to do this. But what it does do is it gives the kid, your high achievers, it gives them a target. And what I'm finding, because you're right, we do steal from this for our youth program, and a lot of things that we're doing, I tell them, hey, this counts for you. We went cave diving a couple months ago, and I told them, count this as one of your 10-mile hikes. This, it's not a hike, but this is a hard thing that
yeah. That is hard.
like fit that in there. And so and then what happens is, like, kids will start realizing, oh, I'm like halfway done with this thing that I've started. All I need to do is plan some service projects and get going. So
Yeah, I love it.
that's what starts happening, and kids really buy into it. They want to believe in themselves, and they need something to build that confidence.
Yeah, I'm just thinking back, like, the times I remember one Boy Scout camp, just doing the rappelling wall, and I was so terrified, leaning over that edge and trusting my leaders, and the person at the bottom and all that. So, but man, I'm so glad I did it. It really pushed me, and I grew from that. So these are great ideas. Great ideas.
Well, that's one thing. I'm a little bit of a cheat code because I'm a former climbing guide. I used to do that for in the summer times. So
Oh, that's cool.
so I've got like a lot of gear to take kids climbing, and
I love
so
it.
we do a lot of outdoors, and you know
You're
we
one of
play
the
a lot.
dudes in your
I'm
ward,
one of
right?
the yeah, but now they call me as the bishop, so I'm like, okay, I gotta find another dude to do this for me
Yeah,
because
you can't do it
I got
all,
a lot of
right?
focus to do.
Yeah, and then in the rest of this document, it looks like this is more just like the actual signing off, and whether it's an adult that needs to verify that it happens,
Yes,
from everything
yes.
from cooking the meals to the memorization to the hikes and all that, right? Kind of the
Yes.
merit badge card, right?
This is the accountability piece, right?
Yeah.
And you need that. Like, you can't just say, "Oh yeah, I did it." Like, no, you need to go. You need to actually plan this thing, have it signed off, and do it
Hmm.
for it to count. So
That's awesome.
it's not just a totally passive thing. We do a lot of follow up with this. Like, probably once every 3 months, I'll meet with the youth and just say, okay, where are we at with this? Are you working on this? If you're not working on this, that's okay. But for those of you that are, let's go down and look into this.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So does it become a regular topic like that you bring up in Sunday core meeting, or that they're
I
always talking about it, or?
so I try really hard to not let it replace like the church, right? Like when like this isn't done by the church. It's done. This was like my brainchild, right?
Yeah.
Um, so I'll bring it up passively in church, but really oftentimes we'll talk about it like when we're driving around places or at youth activities. And then I introduce it every year in January, as any ward is doing. I would assume they have their annual planning meeting. I introduce it there at our annual planning meeting, and then anytime we get so also with our incoming deacons and their parents, will meet with them, and I give it to the parents, and this isn't going to work unless parents buy in. Like, it's similar to scouting or any program for your youth. You have to have parent buy-in,
Yeah.
otherwise it doesn't matter.
And what does that look like? Has that been harder for some than others? I mean, is there a way you approach that formally to get their buy-in, or?
Um, it varies parent to parent, just like anything else. Some parents grab this and go, "Oh my gosh, I love this! I've been needing this," and they're running with it. And they're and for some of them, their kids finish the program real quick, and other ones are like, "I really want my kid to do this, but my kid doesn't really want to do this, so we're pulling teeth to make them do it." And then I
Yeah.
have other parents that are like, "Yeah, we're not so sure. We." And what I'm finding is if the kids, if you want your kid to be high achieving, you got to give them some targets,
Yeah.
and so this is a really good target for them.
Yeah. Do you find because I think, I mean, the general idea with like the child and youth program is like that they come up with their own goals and their own things like that. And so
Yeah.
I would imagine like if you have a really a really excited youth that is ready to go, they and he comes to you and says, "Hey, instead of doing 4 10-mile hikes, I want to read 100 books," or or
Oh
he may
yeah.
say, I want to read 2 books. You're like, well, 2 books, that's it's not really that hard. But then maybe you can negotiate. But if they're ambitious that way,
I think that anything is negotiable in these programs and stuff that you're building. But I truly believe it doesn't matter what you do as long as you're doing something to push the kids,
hmm
right?
hmm
And so this is just what we did, but I would challenge anyone to put together a list of 40 things that you want your kids to do. And if your kids have some say in that, of hey, I'm interested in reading a bunch of books, or I want to go and hike Mount Timpanogos, whatever it is, that's go and make that a goal and then do it,
yeah,
and then reward them for it. A thing that's not, you're not at my ward right now, but we've started, anytime we go to activities, I've asked my leaders to take pictures, and we print off our pictures every 6 months and put them all over. We have billboards that we just our youth billboards, and they're
uh-huh.
just pictures of all
Oh,
of
that's
our
cool.
kids.
That's
And
cool.
yeah, because we got smartphones, they take pictures. We should be
Yeah,
showing them off.
yeah. So true. So true. And if you, I'll plug another episode about our award history episode I did there. The church has a unit history that you can actually put them online and put them, literally in the archives of the church. Some of these activities happen, so it's very cool. I was going to ask with just like the end of like the reward dinner, or what do you call that?
So yeah, we have an award ceremony. With that, and actually, I sent you like a booklet form of it that you fold in the middle. It opens in the middle, and you can see there's pictures of our award ceremony there. It'd
Oh,
be the
okay.
last page on there if you're seeing that one. So we give them these plaques with their names on them, and we cook them a fancy dinner, and we talk to them about that program and what they learned from it, how they grew, what was hard for them. Most of the girls said that the hikes were the hard part, and the boys didn't. They just said they had a great time doing it.
Yeah, that's awesome. And man, I'm just thinking like as reflecting on something that's hard. Like there's so many stories that probably come to the surface of, the funny stories, the stories with tears in it, right? And to
Oh
create a
yeah.
place where those stories can be reminisced and talked about. That's probably a very bonding experience for that group.
It's a bonding experience for that group, and it does. So the reward ceremony is huge because they're like, oh, this is like for me, this is special. We keep the kids can take the plaques home, but we tell them, if you'll let us hold on to them, we'll put them on the wall in the church, and that's all the kids have said. Oh yeah, keep them there. I recognize those kids at our calendaring meeting. The like last year's kids, they got recognized at this year's planning meeting. Like, hey, stand if you finish this, and they're all like, oh, this is me, I'm the one that did it, you know
Yeah, it's like the old eagle's nest, right? When you can
yeah.
say that I'm part of that.
Yeah, yeah.
That's cool.
And so that's, those are the things that we miss from those programs, I think. And so it's just, we don't need to throw the baby out with the bathwater. Let's keep some of the good stuff that came from scouting and the Duty to God awards and all of these things. We need them still. Our kids need them. We need to be. That was another thing. I remember walking around my church building, being like, we're not celebrating our kids. Like it's all just like BYU posters of come inside of our pathways. Like, as much as that's great, I want to be celebrating my kids and what they're doing here now.
Mhm.
And so we need to be giving them opportunities for us to celebrate them.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. Now, and these plaques that you got, I mean, just go to your local trophy shop type of thing and handmade, or
Good old Amazon.com, man. They're like
oh,
$10. The
really?
kids love them. It's not expensive. And either you can buy them, the church can refund you for them. That's
Yeah,
however you
and they're
guys want to do it.
personalized, right? I mean, it's got their name on there. I can't read
Yeah.
the small print on there, but yeah, that's great. That's
Yeah.
great.
And
What a memento,
it's,
right?
And it absolutely is, and they're proud of it. I have one of those young men is working on doing it the second time, and so what we've told him is we're going to get him a special coin that he gets to keep in his pocket for the repeat. And we're not making him do everything all over again. Just as we've done it every year, I've kind of updated it and been like, okay, we're going to tweak this here, we're going to tweak that there. And so he's doing all the tweaks that we've changed, and he's going to get a special token for it.
Yeah. Awesome. I love
Yeah.
it. Very cool. Well, what else are we missing about this? The maybe I was going to ask more about the rewards dinner. Like, did you say like it's at a specific date that you're kind of all building
So
towards?
So what we did, we introduced it in January. So we did it the following January from year one. This
Okay.
year, I have two young men that are really close. Whenever they finish it, we'll probably do it fairly soon afterwards.
Mm.
Is what I'm gonna guess we'll do. If not, we kind of figure that as we go. We're flying by the seat of our
Yeah.
pants.
And I appreciate you mentioning that it's not, you don't need to be sticklers on these things, but you're sort of gauging like where the youth are at. It's like, oh man, if this kid had another 6 weeks, I mean, we could probably do this, right? Where I
Yeah.
think in scouting, it was like the 18th birthday was like doomsday, right? Like I got to get this project done before then. So kind of create some wiggle room, right? And keep encouraging him, right?
Oh, absolutely. And so the big thing that I would say if you're going to do any program like this, I can't stress it enough. You got to have mom buy-in.
Yeah.
If a parent is into this, and you'll know your parents that are like, no, I want my kid to do this, and oftentimes they're the parents that miss the scouting program, or our young women. I should mention that. So in my ward, I did the I Can Do Hard Things. This inspired the rest of the ward. So because I did I Can Do Hard Things, our primary did a oh gosh, it's not I Can Do Hard Things, but it's like the covenant path or something like that, but it's 8 things that primary kids can do for
Oh, cool.
theirs. And so kind of like an arrow of light program for after they turn 8 to do. And our young women made one that they call the 5 pillars. And so it's had a bit of a domino effect in that all of our organizations in our ward have built their own little programs that they give to their kids to say, hey, come and do this. Come in and let's go and prove to ourselves that we can do some things.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. I love that. And so are there, I would imagine there's some kids that are just, you don't get the buy-in from the parents. They don't give personal buy-in. And I mean, does that get awkward or
No,
any
we
advice?
just love them. We just love them, and I'm very quick to tell everyone this is not required. You do not need to do this. You don't need to do this to serve a mission. You don't need to do this to be a member of the church. Like this is just something to help you as parents and as leaders. It gives you a target, but if you don't need the target, cool.
Yeah.
That's totally fine.
Yeah.
Um, but we just only want to help with it.
Yeah.
So, and I do have parents that say, this gives my kids anxiety. I don't want to do this.
Hmm.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
And it's funny because when I talk to those kids and we start going on it, they're like, oh, yeah, I did that. Oh, yeah, I did that. Oh, maybe it's not that hard. It's
Uh-huh.
just like, I just have to do it. It's like, yeah,
Yeah.
because hard things, turns out the hardest part of doing hard things is just going and doing them. Like, it's usually they're not crazy hard. Like
Yeah.
walking 10 miles is just walking.
Yep, for sure. Well, Tanner, what are we missing? Any point, principle, story? Did we give you a good summary here?
I'm a firm believer and this is a shout out to John, by the way, of go and do, don't sit and stew.
Hmm.
And that's everything in the gospel. I feel like is don't wait for the Lord to come and push you, but rather go out and do something. And that would be my challenge to parents, to youth, to leaders, everyone. Just don't wait. Go and do it. The
Yeah.
Lord will bless you, and He'll direct you. He'll tell you when you're wrong.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I love it. I'm just thinking, what would this look like? I'm currently serving as an Elders Quorum president. I'm like, what would this look like in Elders Quorum? And I'm sure there's some guys that would love it. I mean, a lot of them are, aiming for, personal bests at the gym or things like that. And let's formalize it and celebrate each other's successes,
Yeah,
So,
I we just called a whole new ward
yeah.
because new bishop, and I have sent my elders quorum president to your podcast on several
I love it.
occasions. One of them, I can't remember who it was, but they recommended like quarterly doing an elders quorum barbecue with the men where they can just be men together, and I was
Yeah.
like, brother, please do that. That's all I need. If you start doing that, everything else is gonna fall into place. But make
Yeah.
this a place for the brethren. But
Yeah. That's so cool.
we don't have an I can do hard things for adults other than the I can do hard things, which you could do as an adult.
Well, there's somebody out there listening to our voices right now who's going to put ink to paper and let us know when it's done. So
Heck yeah,
love
I
it.
love it.
Cool. Well, Daniel, this is fantastic. I'm so glad you reached out, and hopefully, this is an example for others who are doing some really unique, cool things. Not again, you're not claiming this is the program that every ward should do, but hey, it's worked for you, and that's great.
It's worked for me. It's worked for I've introduced it to about 3 stakes and about 8 different wards now, and they've all said we are really excited about this thing and they want it. So if you guys are
Awesome.
interested, let me know. I'm happy to share it with people.
Cool. Well, we'll definitely put what you have here in the show notes so people can kind of get an idea. But again, they can come up their own or tweak it and just run with it. So it'd be awesome. Perfect. Well, Tanner, I'll ask you. I mean, you're a week into this this bishoping thing, but obviously you've been a leader a long time. And so, as you reflect on your time as a leader, how has being a leader helped you become a better follower of Jesus Christ?
It's helped me to understand how the Savior sees people. I think that we don't see our potential in ourselves often, and we doubt ourselves often. And as I've served in the church, I take people with imperfections all the time, and I'm like, we just need you, and we love you where you're at, and all this does is help you grow. And that's been my experiences. I just keep growing.